Hey team, it's Chris here and I'm back with more stories behind the map. This is episode 2 looking at stage 4 of the Adventure Racing World Series Expedition Canada presented by Subaru Canada. For this particular event, we were very fortunate to be sponsored by Subaru Kelowna. Talking today about the experiences that we had during stage 4, which was a 40-kilometer paddle, a 14-kilometer portage, another 20-kilometer paddle, small 1.5 kilometer portage, a 3.5 kilometer paddle, and lastly a 1.5 kilometer portage. That last paddle was a swiftwater moving water section that had a dark zone. We actually got there in the middle of the night. We're unable to do that paddle, so we extended our portage to just over 5 kilometers by the time everything was said and done, maybe even closer to 6.5 kilometers. Nevertheless, let's dig into what we were looking at as racers. We, as you know, stopped at TA3 for a couple hours of sleep. Our intention throughout the race was to have about 3 hours of sleep each day. If possible, those 3 hours were combined in the largest chunks of time possible. This was our first opportunity to sleep, so we took it at the TA, set up the tent, and had those couple hours. It worked out quite well because we were able to get on the water at first light. Carpenter Lake was a long paddle. As you know, it was a 40-kilometer paddle. You can see we ended up working across several map sheets by the time everything was said and done, working our way southeast, and then it started to narrow as we continued to move on. We were heading towards checkpoint 13, which was a buoy line from BC Hydro. You can see it here on our maps. On the Dot Watchers map, you can't see that buoy line. Interestingly, that buoy line was affected by the wind. Between that hydro line and the buoy line, there was a significant amount of swirling wind. That two teams that came out just before us came out much more westerly of that CP because the buoy line got pushed west. And they had to exit the water on the shoreline and work their way back towards checkpoint 13. We were quite lucky by the time we arrived that it had moved back and fairly close to checkpoint 13. There was a massive embankment at that part. I think all teams struggled a little bit just to get their gear up onto some flat land so you could deflate the rafts, pack things up, and prepare for the portage. Our portage was up over Mission Pass, as you can see right here. It was a 14-kilometer portage. Here's the top of the pass, and then working our way back along all those switchbacks to the south. Shalath put in, which was at a public beach. This particular area was much lower than Carpenter Lake. That second half of the portage seemed to go downhill for quite some period of time. Let's look at what you were looking at from a Dot Watcher's perspective. All right, here you can see TA number 3, Gun Creek Campground. And then all the way at this end, the Lillooet Rec Centre is where we were ending up. There is Carpenter Lake that you can see. I'm going to try to zoom in here a little bit. The south side of Carpenter Lake came with a warning that there was a lot of grizzly bear activity on that south side. So if we were to stop or spend any significant time on shore, it was to be on the north side. We actually hugged a lot of the south shore because we encountered significant headwinds through the last 3 quarters of Carpenter Lake. Didn't see any bear activity, no signs of bear activity while we were out there, so fortunate or unfortunate, it worked in our favor nevertheless. Rumor has it that the lead teams had a significant tailwind, so if there's any validity to that, I'd certainly love to know. Nevertheless, we spent a lot of time on that water paddling towards the buoy lines at checkpoint 13. Here gives you an idea of the portage. The nice thing about this map is there's some shading that helps to show you the slope. You can see that green line is the road that we had come up. Our blue line is our particular track. Here's the top of the pass, and then you can see all the switchbacks working our way back down to the public beach. You can tell here's the put-in. You can see that our blue line actually went and followed the intended route, which was through the BC hydro plant. There were a couple teams that appeared that just hopped over the train tracks. Our best guess, the train tracks were out of bounds, but we could see why teams were tempted, especially at night, because you can see a bunch of activity by headlamps, etc., right on the shore. as you come down this switchback right here. So painstakingly, we made our way through that hydro plant and then back towards the CP. This Seton River was in our favor. It was a beautiful evening, a bit of wind to start off with, but under complete darkness. We didn't put headlamps on for very much. We could see this particular feature right here. At night, there was a bit of a horizon, and we could basically take a bearing and aim towards that, which you can see by our blue line. We did hug the shore a little while until we were able to see some lights down towards the CP, and we took another bearing towards that as well. Can't remember if some wind came up here or why we ended up coming along the right side. I think we came to the right side of this river just because we knew on the left side there was the Seton River. It was a moving water section that we were supposed to get on. We wanted to stay on the right side to avoid it. As we were paddling, we did see a lot of activity for some other teams perhaps that were all over the beach looking for the checkpoint. We weren't able to confirm if they were teams or perhaps just folks that were out there, but it was early on in the morning, so our best guess is that it was teams doing something similar. Checkpoint 15, we arrived there at just before 3 o'clock in the morning, and you can see that we checked in at TA 3 just before 2 o'clock. So we had spent a significant amount of time on Carpenter Lake and on Seton River. This was the moving water, or the swift water section from checkpoint 16, which was the put-in, following the Seton River all the way into, or close to, I should say, Lillooet. If you continued on, you'd hop in the Fraser River, which they did not want folks to do. It was supposed to be a small portage. We ended up portaging from this particular checkpoint, checkpoint 15, all the way to the rec center. We had planned for 3 hours of sleep each day, in as big chunks as possible, so we were able to bed down in the rec center for those hours. Surprisingly, it was incredibly quiet and we were able to get a decent night's sleep. All right, here you can see the east end of Seton River and our route up towards the Lillooet Recreation Centre. Here's checkpoint 15. Here's the intended put-in of the Swiftwater section. Because that was dark zone, we ended up following all the way along to checkpoint 17, crossing the river, and then up into the community center before we had a couple hours of sleep. Hopefully this is, again, just a nice way to unpack our experiences so you can see what we were looking at on the ground using the tools that we had, these particular topographic maps, and contrasting that to what you saw as a dot watcher. I'll endeavor to get another stage or two out here quick so you can just see what our experiences were at the Adventure Racing World Championships. Thanks for following along, and hopefully we're going to see you out there.